and you have atomic mass. Now these numbers are going to change because you're now putting in different numbers than what you started with. So the grams is going to change. You start with 30 grams, you're not going to get 30 grams in return. It'd be very, 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 very rare to get that. Very coincidental. So the moles is now this, 0.144. So your moles goes here, 0.144. And your atomic mass also changes. Your atomic mass originally was the mass of this, PbCl3. Now your atomic mass is the mass of one of these. Now don't do 3 of these. You took care of the 3 and the 2 in this step. Okay? Now you just have to find the mass of one of these, the FeCl2. Alright? So the FeCl2 is going to be mass of 1 iron, which is 56, and 2 chlorines, which is 35 and 35. 70 plus 56 is 116. Alright. So the atomic mass of the new stuff is 116, which is a lot lighter than the stuff we started with. Right? So then in my handy dandy calculator, I go 0.144 times 116 and hit equals. Alright? If you look at that, you got 16.7 grams of the new stuff. So I'll put that in green. 16.7 grams. Okay, so bottom line. I started with 30 grams of PbCl3 and I got 16.7 grams of FeCl2. Alright, so now we're halfway done. Believe it or not, we went through all that and we're only halfway done with the problem. That's why these are tricky. But now we do exactly what we just did again. But with the other thing. Okay? So now, the second step of this problem, to find out which one's limiting, is to do the same thing with the FeOH. Picture it this way. This is your eggs. This is your cake mix. We want to know which one is going to be used up first. Do we have more eggs or more cake mix? Okay? And the one that's used up first is our limiting reactant. And the way we figure that out is it's going to give us a smaller thing. If we mix 3 eggs and... I'll go back. Remember, if we mix 3 eggs and 1 cake mix, we get a cake. If we mix 3 eggs and a half a box of cake mix, we get a half a cake. Right? So in this case, this would be used up first, so this is limiting. In this case, 2 eggs and 1 box of cake mix, the eggs would be used up first, so this is limiting. So the one that gives you less, the less amount of product is limiting. Because if I use 3 eggs and 1 box of cake mix, I'll get a full cake. If I use less of one and the full thing of the other, I get the smaller amount. So it doesn't matter how much of this I use. I could use 1,000,000 cake mixes. If I only have 2 eggs, I'm still only going to get 2/3 of a cake. All right? So back to this. How this relates is, okay, this is your eggs, this is your cake mix. Which one's going to get used up first? You do exactly the same thing. Here's how you figure it out. You guys know how to do this because you did it with the cake example, but now you don't know, you can't, there's no good set way to do it without doing the math. You can't just say, okay, 3 of this plus 1 of this equals, like 3 eggs, 1 cake mix equals 1 cake. No, you have to convert to moles, which is your comparison. You have to compare moles. That's why this whole thing, this whole unit is on the mole. You have to compare moles to figure out which one it is. And you can measure moles in grams. That's why it's confusing. So you measure moles in the lab by converting it to grams. But when you have to compare stuff, you have to compare moles. Because 30 grams of this is much different than 30 grams of this because they have different masses. They have different atomic masses. So I'm getting sidetracked. Back on topic. We're going to do exactly the same thing from here to get to that. All right? So step one, convert to moles. So we can blast through this real quickly now. So 30 grams of this, it goes on top. What you have to do, divide by the atomic mass. The same thing with that triangle, okay? So now the atomic mass of iron hydroxide is 56 for iron, plus I have 2 oxygens, so 16 plus 16, and I have 2 hydrogens, 2. So the atomic mass is 56 plus 16 plus 16 plus 2, or 90, all right? So 30 divided by 90, I could do that in my head. That's 0.33. Okay? So I'm going to write, I have 0.33 moles. So right off the bat, you can probably start to conceptualize which one's going to be limiting. I have 0.096 of this, and I have 0.33 of this. I need 3 of these for every 2 of those. So if I multiply it by 3 halves, take this multiplied by 3 halves, it's not going to be quite 0.33. In fact, let's try that. If I take 0.096 times 3 halves, what do I get? I get 0.144. Okay? Which is less than 0.33. So right off the bat, you can figure out, okay, I don't have enough of this. I need 0.144 moles to react. I need 0.144 moles of this to react with 0.096 moles of this. And that comes from the ratio. Okay? You just have to take this multiplied by 1.5. I need 0.144 moles of this, what we just found in the calculator, to react with 0.096 moles of this. I have way more than that. So this is going to get used up first. So right off the bat, I can figure out this is limiting. So since we did that one first, we're done. 16.7 grams is what we're going to end up with. But let's go through it anyway, just to see what would have happened. 0.33 moles of this gives you how many grams of the same thing that we found before, the FeCl2. Well, okay, convert to moles, bam. Multiply or divide by the ratio. 3 to 3, so it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so you don't have to do anything with that. 0.33 moles of this equals 0.33 moles of this. Okay? Moles back to grams. So we have 0.33 on the bottom times the atomic mass, we're doing the triangle. Okay, atomic mass of this, which was 90, right? I believe it was 90. 56 plus 35 plus 35, no, it's 126. I think I put 116 before. We'll be off by a little bit. 126. 126 times 0.33 gives me 41.6 grams. I rounded that. Okay? So, I start with, let's imagine we had a bunch of this, and we mix it with 30 grams of this. It's saying it's going to give me 41.6 grams of this. Okay? This is saying I'm only going to get 16.7 grams. So this is where the eggs and the cake tie in. The PbCl3 says I'm going to get 16.7 grams. The FeOH2 says I'm going to get 41.6 grams. So which one is right? The first one, the 16.7 grams. It's just exactly like this one. This one, okay, if I took this bottom one here, if I started with one cake mix, it says I'm going to get one cake, right? If I take 2 eggs, it says I'm going to get 2/3 of a cake. So which one do you go with? The 2/3 of a cake, the one that's limiting. Okay? So if I start with this, because here's what we did. Here's exactly what we did in the problem. I started with this. Okay? This says it's going to give me 16.7 grams. Okay? This says it's going to give me 2/3 of a cake. All right? This says it's going to give me 41.6 grams. This one box of cake mix says it's going to give me 1 cake. Right? With 1 box of cake mix, I can make 1 cake. So which one is right? The one with the lower amount. Because it's limiting the reactant. The eggs are going to run out first. And in this case, the PbCl3 is going to run out first. Okay? If you have questions, just review this video. Follow the steps. Remember, convert to moles. Multiply by the ratio. Moles back to grams. Every single time. That's what you're going to do. This step is pretty easy. You just plug it into the triangle. This step is basically balancing the formula and multiplying by the ratio. So if you start with 2 to go to 3, you got to multiply by 1.5. Start with 1 to go to 2, you have to multiply by 2. Start with 2 to go to 1, you have to divide by 2. So what you start with, you have to figure out what you have to get to get to your goal of the end. So step 1 is this, step 2 is balancing, and then step 3 is going back to moles. And basically, start with something, start with what you're given, and try to get your products. And do that for each reactant. So do it for reactant, this reactant by itself, and this reactant by itself, and then compare them. The one that gives you less is limiting. Okay? Now, that's all we're going to do for right now. This will build a little bit, but if you can get the grasp of this, you're going to be really, really good for the unit that we're working on. So, if you don't get it, just keep reviewing this video, go through the packet that you were given, and just remember those 3 basic steps. And just break it down. Break it down to 3 steps and you should be good. So hopefully this helps, and I'll see you all in the morning. Bright and shiny. All right, take care, guys.